Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast. I am your host, Gage Rosier, and thank you for tuning in for, I believe, episode number 129 of our show, which we are really fortunate, appreciative of all of our listeners for sticking with us for this long. We're going on 3 years, maybe 4 years now. Oh, no, I lose track, but 129 episodes in. This is awesome. So I have some big news to share on the podcast today, which I will get to. But before that, let's get to our sponsors for today's show. And that, as always, is TeamBuildr. I'm going to go off the script for TeamBuildr today and just their support has been tremendous during, obviously, COVID and all the frustrations everybody's felt this year. They've been just absolutely stellar with that. But they just released a new payments portal, which I want to plug for them. And I've been using as a way to generate some side income, which I think most people probably listening to this could always use a little extra side income. And I struggled with this for a while trying to do it because it was such a hassle. It was a lot of work to do correctly for people wanting workouts and stuff. But TeamBuildr with the payments portal has made it so easy to handle the money, the transactions, to get people signed up, to sell your programs. And it's been just a huge success for me and what I've been able to do the last few months using it and what I'm going to be doing here moving forward, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. So I continue to really appreciate TeamBuildr. And if you have questions on the payments portal or just trying to get signed up for what their main service is, and that's helping strength coaches work the most efficiently and effectively as they possibly can, please reach out to Hewitt. His contact information is in the show notes. They do a tremendous job and would love to work with you. Powerlift is our second sponsor of the Big Time Strength Podcast, another longtime sponsor of the show that we love and appreciate. They are the leading manufacturer and distributor of heavy-duty strength training equipment for collegiate and high school athletic performance centers around the world. They bring over 20 years of experience to the strength conditioning field. Their products are manufactured in their state-of-the-art facility in Jefferson, Iowa. They are proud to support all the coaches making the Big Time where they are at. If you're a strength coach, you know Powerlift. You know, they're one of the first and staples in our industry still. Mike Richardson is our contact, so please reach out to him. His information is in the show notes. If you have questions about, you know, outfitting a new room and completely, or just maybe getting a piece or two, they can help you out with whatever your needs are. As always, thank you for TeamBuildr and Powerlift for sponsoring our show and all the coaches out there trying to make the Big Time where they're at. All right, guys, I am moving on to my big announcement, I suppose, and maybe you've already seen this information. I posted it out on my social media, if you follow me, a few days ago now. So it's made its rounds. But I have resigned from my position at William Jewell College. And this was a very tough decision for me to come to, a very bittersweet reality that I'm now facing. But I guess what the point of this podcast today is, number one, I want to explain a little bit on why I did that more than just, you know, the 140 characters in a Twitter post. I'll give a little talk about what I'm going to be doing for those who care. I want to give a little talk about, I'm not going to turn this into a bash collegiate strength conditioning show by any means, because I love collegiate strength conditioning. Like I said, it's bittersweet for me to be leaving, but I do want to show, I guess, why it's not a good fit for me anymore. And I want to talk about the future of this podcast. So diving in, why am I doing this? I love my job. I love William Jewell College. It's been a tremendous honor to work there. I loved working with our administration. They've been extremely supportive of me and what I wanted to do with the weight room, my vision for the department of really just modernizing what I think a strength conditioning department should be. And a lot of that information, by the way, guys, I got from you guys listening to this and who have been our podcast. I stole from you and put at Jewell, which thank you. But, you know, and I love our student athletes there, obviously. That's the reason why we coach. Every person on this podcast listening, hoping that you're in the industry because you like making an impact on student athletes and not just because you love to squat. But what it comes down to is, you know, I hear coaches talk about, you know, they're 10 or 15 years older than me, been in the field 10 or 15 years older than me. They feel like crap. They're worn down. They're burnt out. They talk about how they wish they spent more time with their kids. And I'm sitting there as my family, I now have my son, who's almost 4 years old, and Macklin, and my daughter, Rowan, who will be a year here in about a month. And I decided that's not going to be me. So I'm not going to do those things. So this decision was made 95% because of I want to do what's best for my family, what's best for me to be the best dad and husband I can be. And my wife and I, we have a very clear, vision on who we want our kids to be around. We want them to be around their cousins and their grandparents, and where we want them to grow up so they can learn the things that I learned and we learned growing up as well. And we have the opportunity to do that. So what I'm going to be doing is background, my family, we farm. We're row crop farmers in Northwest Missouri. So I'm actually the only person, a little bit of the black sheep of the family, where I'm the only person in my family who does not farm. So I'm going to be going back to do a little bit of that. But I'm also going to be playing a big role in our family's new venture, to give them a plug, is the Our Farm Distillery. We're going to be making bourbon and vodka and gin and some other bunch of other products that we're venturing into. And I know a bunch of strength coaches' ears just perked up if I know the people on this call, like I or listen to this podcast, like I think I do. We're going to be a big part in that as well. And it's going to be a full family effort. We're all in on it. We're all going to try to make it the best we could possibly be. So I'm going to be doing a little farming, a little distilling, and I'm also going to be doing my own strength conditioning. I've started my own athletic performance company called R Strong Performance, which you can follow on Instagram and Twitter and all that. And I've been piecing out some stuff here and there, but obviously I'm going to be ramping up that much more now that this information is now public. Training local athletes, young adults. I'm going to be bringing kind of a gym to the area, kind of a CrossFit type gym without the CrossFit, if that makes sense. But also looking at doing some consulting for local high schools, teaching them, helping them with whatever strength conditioning needs they need, because that's what I've been doing, is running a strength conditioning department at the college sector, and I've learned a lot on the ins and outs of that, and help maybe some rural high schools that, the NHHSCA, I think I said that right. They're fantastic, but just the reality right now with some of these high schools I'm talking about is they likely will never hire a full-time strength coach, or what that might look like. So I think I can provide some value on trying to get their department rolling in whatever way that I can help out, which I'm really excited about. So that's a little bit about what my, I guess, future holds for me personally, but I don't want to talk about that a whole lot. You'll hear more about that from, you could go on my R Strong podcast, and I'm still going to continue to be a part of this podcast as well, which I will discuss at the end of the show. I'm going to make you, if you really want to know what's going on with the Big Time Strength podcast, I'm going to wait to tell you at the end. So you got to hang on here. What I want to do now is, like I said, I don't want this to turn into, I'm not going to sit here and bash collegiate strength conditioning, because I don't have a reason to. Collegiate strength conditioning is a great field. I hope you understand that that's what I think when I've done a podcast for 3 years about it. So I think you understand that, obviously. But I do want to, I guess, explain a little bit why I don't think collegiate strength conditioning is a really good fit for me personally anymore. So, and I want to preface this as well by saying I haven't wrote these notes out. So if I start, I'm going to talk in circles probably and ramble a little bit, which I apologize. But the biggest thing for me, I guess, is my family. Like I said, we farm. So if you know farmers, they're entrepreneurs, right? So they do what they want, when they want, how they want to do it. And this is the great thing about farming too, is like if they have a great year, if they do things really well, it's because they did the work and it worked really well, right? There's Mother Nature has this big say in it, obviously. But if they don't do very well, it's because they didn't do very well. And that's the entrepreneur, I guess, catch-22 that's enticing to me a little bit. And you know what? It's not that you can't get that in collegiate strength conditioning. Certainly you can. But my life is too dictated by too many other people. My kids, how they get to see me, when they get to see me, is dictated by too many other people. I love those people. It's not their fault. I'm not mad at them. That's the nature of our field. I answer to sport coaches. No, I work with sport coaches. I shouldn't say I answer to them, but we get it, right? Like, I don't want to have to work on Sundays. I would like to. I don't think football absolutely has to lift on Sundays because that's what they did in 1985. I think there's other solutions. But I also understand that maybe there's not other solutions. There's other things about, well, they have class schedules, this, and this. So Sunday has to be it so they can have their off day on Monday, for example. Like, I get that. So, like, we know strength coaches, their support staff. So we're going to support that. So my job is to support the coach. So, yeah, I'm going to run the Sunday lift the best I possibly can, regardless of if I want to do that or not, or regardless if my son's T-ball game is that day or not. And I'm not doing that anymore. Okay. Actually, I haven't had to do it because my kid's 3. But guess what? He's starting T-ball this year, and I'm not doing that. I was raised in a way very fortunate to where my parents were at every single game of mine, most practices. And that's the way I took that for advantage when I was growing up, but I really appreciate that and love that about my childhood growing up. And I want that for my kids. Okay. So looking to this, I love strength conditioning. I love making an impact on student athletes. I love being a part of athletics, right? But do I love it to the extent of letting and having to answer to the schedule of what sport coaches want their athletes to lift and what we have to run the schedule because of the class schedules of the college, all the things that we have to work around that dictate when and how we work? I don't want to do that anymore. I'm sorry. That's just not, the more I'm in it, the more I realize that, I have to beg the football coach maybe to go take a vacation. That's not the right way. I don't have to beg, that's not, I shouldn't say it that way at all. Like, I haven't had to beg anybody to do anything, but I want to be able to do things when and where I want to do it on my terms. And maybe that sounds selfish. And as I say that out loud, it kind of does, I guess, because I don't want to sound like haven't been a team player. I feel like I've sacrificed a lot to benefit our athletes the most I possibly can. And I feel very strongly that is the case. But at the same time, I made a tremendous impact on them, but to what cost, right? So I'm the best strength coach that could possibly be. Great. And everybody talks about this, and it's really hard to do. If you don't have kids, you don't understand. I'm sorry, you don't understand. You don't understand what it's like to come home. And I get everybody, even in strength conditioning, works long days. We talk about this with my family. They talk about, farming is long days. I understand that. Of course it is. It's much deeper than just the hours of the day. But when you're a strength coach on this call, you've worked a 14-hour day, and maybe 7 hours of that was you coaching. Imagine a sport coach running a 7-hour practice. They don't. They run a 2-hour practice. So you've coached for 7 hours, being engaged. And now you got to go home and do your most important job of being the great person you can be for your kids. And I'd be lying to you right now if I said that I'm really good at that. Because fully transparent on this podcast, when 7 o'clock at night hits and I get home from work most nights at like 6, at 7 o'clock at night, it is every ounce of my body, all the energy I have left to play simple games with my son, because of just the drain that work schedule that is required of me takes out of my body. And I am being way more transparent on this show than I intended on being. I think most coaches, if they drop their ego for a second, will relate to what I'm saying right now. And I guess what I've gotten to is I'm not doing that anymore. Don't get me wrong. What I'm doing next, I'm actually probably going to be working more than I am right now, because the work has never been a problem for me. I've always heard of strength coaches complain about the work and stuff. Like, I grew up on a farm. I am used to 12-hour days. It's all I've ever known is 12-hour days, right? But in the broader context of what I'm getting ready to do now, why we're doing this for our families, yeah, we're going to be working more than I am now, but it's in an environment from a family standpoint that we want them to be in. Okay. So that may or may not make sense for the listeners as I'm saying that out loud. But that's really, guys, what it is I don't want my life and my kids, how they see me and the energy I have to interact with them, to be dictated by people who are not here for what's best for my family. It's really as simple as that. And that is not to bash any coach I've ever worked with. I loved every coach I've ever worked with. It's been great, strong relationships with all of them. I love every one of them. It's been, I've learned from them. I've become better. It's just the industry, right? It's just what's expected of strength coaches. And here's the other thing that I think I'm just tired of doing. And I haven't had to do this too much, honestly. I've had the chance to work with great coaches who have trusted me to do my job. I want to preface this comment by saying that I haven't had to do this too much, which I'm very fortunate about or thankful for. But there also is a little bit of just continuing have to justify why I do certain things, how I program, for example, or, I do this over that, and continually have to convince somebody that this is the way I want to do things for this particular way. And that's not to say I don't like to work with people. I don't want to compromise. And trust me, I've done a lot of things that coaches wanted me to do that I didn't necessarily 100% believe in, but I did it because it was safe. It was satisfy them. It was a compromise, right? But I think most coaches on this call could probably relate to this. You talk to a sport coach and it's, you're the expert on strength conditioning in this room, but they go on for, the next 20 minutes telling you how to do your job, which is fine. They should have a say. It's their team when it comes down to it. It's their team, right? So that's a line I always battled with is like, it's their team. So if that's really what they want and it's safe, it's responsible, then okay, we can do it that way. But I'm tired of doing that too, right? I'm tired of people telling me how to do my job. And I think most coaches understand that too. And again, going back to my comment, 97% of the people I've worked with, I haven't had that problem with. So maybe it is a little bit of overreaction because you always have that. I understand that. But that is a little bit of just the nature of strength conditioning. Everybody's an expert in strength conditioning, right? And that's fine. But moving on to what I want to do next is I'm going to do it. I'm going to do strength conditioning, the things I love about it, impacting athletes, the weight room, we always love the weight room and all that, but I'm doing a little bit more on my terms, when and how I want to do it. And in a way that's much better for my family. So I kind of want to end it there. I have some other thoughts and I would love to hear your thoughts back. Maybe I said some things on this podcast that I shouldn't have. I don't know. But I feel like you guys, if you've listened to the podcast for a long time, agree that I'm pretty transparent on my thoughts, I think. So I love collegiate strength conditioning. I might even come back to it if the right opportunity presented itself. I certainly would. There's no doubt about it. But it would have to be right for my family because that's what we're doing things for. So I hope everybody can appreciate that and respects that moving forward here. So I want to wrap up that part and move on to the future of this podcast. So the Big Time Strength podcast will roll on. Don't worry. We're not shutting this thing down. Like I said earlier, half of the things I did at Jewel, I stole from this podcast. So I'm going to keep learning as a coach because I'm still coaching, but I am going to step back from this kind of role of interviewing college strength coaches. So after talking to Preston and Amanda, I think it makes more sense for someone who's actually active coaching in the collegiate sector to be talking to coaches in the collegiate sector. So we're going to bring on another coach I guess he'd be our fourth host. And I'm going to leave that dangling out there for right now. I don't want to break that news quite yet. We will introduce to you who that coach is here in a couple of weeks on our next crew chat. But what that means for me, I'm going to still be involved with the podcast. I will be hosting the crew chats, which we do every month, which I'm really excited about. I can maybe give a little insight on the big and bad private sector that, I'm the devil for joining, try to make a little extra money. So, I think I'll bring a little bit of perspective on that in. Maybe I'll hop on and do a monologue like this every once in a while. So that's what the future of the podcast and the future of my position within the podcast looks like. But really excited for the future of this. Preston and Amanda do a tremendous job. They're really supportive of what the future of the podcast is and what I'm doing as well. So I'm really thankful to them. So guys, as I wrap this up, I do want to plug one more thing, and that is our Big Time Strength Football Clinic coming up here. Big Time Strength and Football Clinic coming up here. It's actually next week. So you can still register. You can still sign up, get there. It's in Mount Vernon, Iowa. If you're within a drive, make the drive. It's going to be a great day. Preston has done all the work on this. All credit goes to him. We have some great coaches coming in to talk strength conditioning and to talk football. So spread it on to your football coaches as well. They're getting some great stuff out of it. So you can register through the links in the show notes or search Preston on Twitter. He's got all kinds of information put out on it. We will also be recording our crew chat where we introduce our next host of the Big Time Strength podcast, who will be stepping into my role as I step back into a different role for the podcast. So looking forward to that. All right, guys. Well, thanks if you made it this far, thank you for tuning into my rants. I don't want to get a message twist that collegiate strength conditioning is this big bad thing and everybody should leave it. No, that's not it at all, right? Like I love the field. I respect every single coach that we've had on here, but it's just not for me anymore, at least at this moment. I shouldn't say never. It's just not what's best for me and my family right now. So we're going to go a different route, which I've already talked about. So I don't need to talk about it anymore. But if you have any thoughts, please reach out. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are on the field, ways we can make it better. Maybe you've had some of the same thoughts I have, which I would love to hear. So if that's you, please let me know. I would love to hear from you. But until next time, guys, as I butcher the outro here, we will talk to you next time. Talk to you soon.